The rain-slicked streets of Brooklyn glistened under the streetlights. And I was running, heart pounding, not because I was late, but because my twin brother, Eli, had texted me 3 words, "I need you." Those words from him were a siren call, a pull stronger than gravity, and they always meant trouble. By the time I reached the alley behind our favorite dive bar, I saw him, Eli, my mirror image, leaning against a dumpster, blood trickling from his lip. "Jake, you're late," Eli said, his voice sharp but shaky, wiping the blood with the back of his hand. His green eyes, identical to mine, burned with that reckless fire I'd known since we were kids. He was my twin, my other half. But where I was cautious, Eli was a wildfire, always dragging me into his chaos. Tonight, though, something felt different, darker, heavier, like the air before a storm. "What the hell happened?" I demanded, grabbing his arm. His jacket was torn, and his knuckles were bruised, the kind of marks that told a story of fists and bad decisions. He didn't answer, just pulled me deeper into the alley, where the neon glow of the bar's sign barely reached. "Eli, talk to me. Now." He stopped, turning to face me, his breath ragged. "I messed up, Jake. Big time." His voice cracked, and for the first time in years, I saw fear in his eyes, not the thrill-seeking kind, but real, bone-deep fear. "They're after me. And I think they know about me." "Who's they?" "Know what?" My stomach twisted. Eli had always been reckless, but this was new. He'd been hiding something big, and I'd been too wrapped up in my own life, me job, my girlfriend, my attempt at normal. Sido notice. "The guys from the club," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "They saw me with him. With Ryan." He looked away, his jaw tight, and my heart sank. Ryan. The name hit like a punch. I'd suspected Eli was keeping secrets, but this was the one he'd buried deepest. Eli and I grew up in a small town upstate, where being different wasn't just frowned upon. It was dangerous. Our dad was a mechanic with a temper. Our mom a churchgoer who prayed for our souls every Sunday. We were inseparable, Eli and I, not just because we were twins, but because we had to be. We protected each other. When Eli started sneaking out at 16, coming home with bruises he wouldn't explain, I covered for him. When I got caught stealing beer for us, he took the blame. But his feelings for Ryan, his truth was something he'd kept even from me. "Ryan," I repeated, my voice low. "The guy from your band." Eli nodded, his eyes darting to the alley's entrance like he expected someone to appear. "What happened?" "Eli, what did you do?" He laughed, a bitter sound. "What didn't I do?" "I kissed him. Jake. In the club. In front of everyone. I was drunk. And I was tired of hiding. And I kissed him." His voice broke, and he ran a hand through his dark hair. Identical to mine, but messier. "Now they're coming for me. They think I'm a freak. And they're not wrong." "Don't say that," I snapped, grabbing his shoulders. "You're not a freak. You're my brother." But even as I said it, I felt the weight of his words. I'd known Eli was struggling, but I hadn't pushed, hadn't asked. I'd let him drift. And now he was in trouble, real trouble. Before I could say more, headlights flashed at the alley's mouth. A car screeched to a stop, and 3 guys spilled out, their silhouettes menacing against the city glow. "There he is," one shouted, his voice thick with venom. Eli froze, his hand gripping mine like we were kids again, hiding from Dad's belt. "Run," I whispered. But Eli shook his head. "No. I'm done running." His voice was steady now, but his eyes were pleading. "Stay with me, Jake. Please." I didn't hesitate. I'd never leave him. Not then. Not ever. But as the guys closed in, their fists clenched, I knew this night was about to change everything for Eli. For me. For us. The alley felt smaller, the air thicker, and I braced myself for whatever came next. Because that's what you do for your twin. You stand, even when the world's against you. The fight was brutal, fast, and messy. The first guy swung at Eli, but I stepped in, catching his fist and twisting until he yelped. Eli wasn't a fighter, but I'd been in enough scraps to know how to throw a punch. I took down the second guy with a knee to his stomach, but the third was bigger, meaner. He grabbed Eli, slamming him against the wall, and I saw red. "Get off him," I roared, tackling the guy. We hit the ground hard, fists flying, my knuckles splitting against his jaw. Eli was shouting something, but I couldn't hear over the blood pounding in my ears. When it was over, the three guys were groaning on the ground, and Eli was pulling me to my feet, his hands shaking. "Jake, you didn't have to," he started, but I cut him off. Yes, I did. I was breathing hard, my hands stinging, but I looked at him and saw the truth he'd been hiding. "Why didn't you tell me about Ryan?" "About you." Eli's face crumpled, and for a moment, he wasn't the reckless twin, the one who always had a plan. He was just my brother, scared and exposed. "I didn't know how," he said. "I thought you'd, I don't know, hate me." "Hate you." The words hit harder than any punch. "Eli, you're my brother. Nothing changes that." But even as I said it, I felt the distance between us, the years of secrets piling up like bricks. I'd been so caught up in my own life-me job at the auto shop, my relationship with Sarah, that I hadn't seen Eli slipping away. He looked down, kicking at a broken bottle. "I've been hiding it forever, Jake. Since we were kids. I didn't want to be the one who broke us." His voice was raw, and I realized how much it had cost him to keep this from me. From everyone. The alley was quiet now, the city humming in the distance. I put a hand on his shoulder, feeling the weight of all the times I hadn't been there. "You didn't break us," I said, "but you've got to let me in. No more secrets." Eli nodded, but before he could say more, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his face went pale. "It's Ryan," he said. "He's at the hospital. They got to him, too." My blood ran cold. This wasn't just about Eli anymore. This was bigger, uglier, and I knew we weren't done fighting, not tonight. Maybe not ever. But as we ran toward the car, Eli's hand brushing mine, I felt something shift. We were twins, bound by blood and something deeper. And no matter what came next, we'd face it together. The hospital was a blur of fluorescent lights and antiseptic smells. The kind of place that made you feel like time had stopped. Eli and I burst through the ER doors, my heart racing as we scanned the waiting room for Ryan. Eli's face was a mask of guilt and fear, his hands fidgeting like they always did when he was unraveling. "There," he said, pointing to a corner where a guy sat, head bowed, a bandage across his cheek. Ryan looked up, his dark eyes locking onto Eli's, and I saw something pass between them, something raw, unspoken, and powerful. I'd never seen Eli look at anyone like that, and it hit me how much he'd been carrying alone. Ryan. Eli breathed, rushing over. He stopped short, like he was afraid to touch him, afraid he'd break. I'm so sorry. This is my fault. Ryan shook his head, his voice hoarse. It's not. It's theirs. He gestured vaguely, and I knew he meant the guys from the club, the ones who'd turned a moment of courage into a nightmare. Ryan's lip was split, his arm in a sling, but his eyes were fierce, like he was ready to fight the world if he had to. I stood back, giving them space, but my mind was spinning. Eli had always been the one to leap first into fights, into trouble, into life, but this was different. This was love, messy and real, and it was tearing him apart. I wanted to fix it, to make it right, but I didn't know how. What happened? I asked, stepping closer. Ryan glanced at me, then back at Eli, like he was weighing whether to trust me. Finally, he spoke. After Eli left the club, they followed me. Ryan said, called me names, threw bottles. I tried to get away, but he trailed off, his hand brushing the bandage on his cheek. They knew about us. Someone saw us together last week, and word got around. Eli's fists clenched. I should have stayed. I should have. Stop, Ryan said, his voice firm but gentle. He reached out, his fingers brushing Eli's arm, and I saw my brother soften, just for a moment. You couldn't have known. I felt like an outsider, watching something I didn't fully understand. But I understood enough. Eli was in love, and that love had put a target on his back in Ryan's. The guys who'd attacked them weren't just random thugs. They were part of a crowd that hung out at the club, a mix of locals and out-of-towners who'd made it clear they didn't tolerate people like them. The thought made my blood boil. We need to go to the cops, I said, my voice low. Eli's head snapped up, his eyes wide. No way, he said. You know how that goes, Jake. They'll just tell us to stay out of trouble. Or worse, they'll blame us. He was right. Our small-town upbringing had taught us that authority wasn't always on our side. But this was New York, not some backwater. Things had to be different here, didn't they? Ryan shook his head. Eli's right. I tried reporting stuff like this before. They don't care unless someone's dead. His voice was bitter, and I saw the weight of it in his eyes. Years of hiding, of fighting, of surviving. Then what? I asked, frustration bubbling up. We just let them get away with it. Eli looked at me, his green eyes steady for the first time that night. We fight back, but not with fists. We do it by living, by being who we are, no matter what they think. His voice was quiet but fierce, and I saw a glimpse of the brother I'd always known, the one who never backed down, no matter the odds. Ryan nodded, a small smile breaking through the pain. He's right. They want us to hide, to disappear. We won't. I looked between them, feeling the weight of their words. This wasn't just about tonight, or the fight in the alley. This was about Eli's truth, about Ryan's courage, about a world that wasn't ready for them but would have to learn. I didn't have all the answers, but I knew one thing. I wasn't letting my brother face this alone. We left the hospital just before midnight, the city still alive with lights and noise. Eli and Ryan walked close, their shoulders brushing, and I trailed behind, my mind racing. I kept replaying Eli's words, we fight back by living. It sounded brave, but I knew it wouldn't be easy. Not in a world where people like those guys from the club could hurt them just for existing. Where to now? I asked, catching up. Eli glanced at Ryan, then back at me. My place, he said. We need to figure this out. And Ryan needs to rest. Eli's apartment was a tiny walk-up in Williamsburg, cluttered with vinyl records and half-finished lyrics scrawled on napkins. It was his sanctuary, the one place he could be himself. But tonight it felt like a fortress under siege. We sat around his rickety kitchen table, Ryan sipping water, Eli pacing like a caged animal. We can't just wait for them to come after us again, Eli said, his voice tight. They know where I play, where I live. They're not going to stop. Then we make them stop, I said, leaning forward. We find out who they are, where they hang out. We expose them. Ryan raised an eyebrow, skeptical but intrigued. Expose them how? You think posting their names online's going to do anything? They'll just come for us harder. He had a point, but I wasn't ready to give up. Then we get proof. Record them. Catch them in the act. People need to see what they're doing. Eli stopped pacing, his eyes lighting up. You mean like a sting? Set them up. Get it on video. Exactly, I said, feeling a spark of hope. We show the world who they really are. Make it so they can't hide. Ryan looked between us, his expression torn. It's risky. If they catch us, it's over. And not just for us, for you, too. Jake. I met his gaze, unflinching. I'm in. He's my brother. The words felt heavier than ever, but they were true. Eli was my twin, my mirror, my responsibility. If he was going to fight, I'd be right there with him. Eli's phone buzzed again, and he froze, his face paling as he read the screen. It's them, he said, his voice barely audible. They just sent me a picture of the bar. They're waiting. My heart sank, but I forced myself to stay calm. Then we don't wait, I said. We go to them. Tonight. Eli looked at me, his eyes searching mine, and for the first time in years, I felt like we were kids again, facing the world together. You sure? He asked. Always, I said, and I meant it. The bar was a dive called Rusty's, a grimy hole in the wall where Eli's band played most weekends. The air inside was thick with cigarette smoke and the tang of cheap beer, the kind of place where fights broke out as often as conversations. As we stepped through the door, I felt every eye in the room turn toward us. Eli, Ryan, and me, walking into the lion's den. Eli's hand brushed mine, a subtle signal to stay close. Ryan walked on his other side, his jaw set, his eyes scanning the crowd. The guys from the alley were here somewhere. We could feel it in the tension that hung like a storm cloud. The photo they'd sent Ellie, an image of the bar's neon sign glowing against the night sky, was a taunt, a challenge. They wanted us to know they were watching. There, Ryan whispered, nodding toward a corner booth where three guys sat, their laughter loud and mean. I recognized one of them from the alley, the big one, with a scar across his eyebrow. My knuckles ached just looking at him. Keep cool, I said, my voice low. We stick to the plan. The plan was simple but risky: get them talking, get them angry, and get it all on video. Eli had his phone rigged to record audio in his pocket, and I had mine tucked into my jacket, the camera angled to catch their faces. If we could get them to admit what they'd done or better, to threaten us again, we'd have something solid to take public. Eli led the way, his shoulders squared, his usual swagger dialed up to mask the fear I knew he felt. He slid into the booth across from the guys, Ryan and I flanking him. The scarred guy leaned back, smirking, a beer bottle dangling from his fingers. "Well, look who's back," he said, his voice dripping with contempt. "The freak and his bodyguard. And who's this?" His eyes landed on Ryan, and I saw Eli tense. "Leave him out of it," Eli said, his voice steady but sharp. "This is between you and me." The guy laughed, his buddies joining in. "Oh, it's way past that. Pretty boy. You think you can just prance around, kissing guys in my club, and walk away? This is our turf." "Your turf?" I cut in, leaning forward. "Last I checked, this bar doesn't have your name on it." I was baiting him, and I knew it. But we needed him to talk, to slip up. His smirk faded, his eyes narrowing. "You're the brother, right? The straight one. Why you sticking up for him? He's the one causing trouble." "He's my brother," I said, my voice low and hard. "That's enough for me." The guy leaned closer, his breath sour. "You know what he is, don't you? What he does? You cool with that?" I felt Eli flinch beside me, but I didn't break eye contact. "I'm cool with him being who he is. You got a problem with that?" The guy's face twisted, and I knew he had him. He started ranting, spitting words like disgusting and wrong, his voice loud enough to draw stares. Eli's phone was catching every word, and my camera was rolling, hidden but steady. Ryan stayed quiet, his hand resting on Eli's knee under the table, a small gesture of strength. "You think you can just live like that?" The guy snarled, slamming his bottle down. "We'll make sure you don't. You and your little boyfriend." "That a threat?" I asked, keeping my voice calm but firm. My heart was pounding, but I couldn't let him see it. "It's a promise," he said, leaning back with a smug grin. His buddies nodded, their eyes glinting with malice. That was the line we needed. I glanced at Eli, and he gave a tiny nod. We had enough. "Let's go," I said, standing. Eli and Ryan followed, and we moved toward the door, every step feeling like a minefield. The guy shouted something after us, but I didn't turn back. We'd gotten what we came for, but I knew this was far from over. Outside, the night air hit us like a slap, cold and sharp. Eli was shaking, not from the cold, but from the adrenaline. Ryan put an arm around him, and I saw the way Eli leaned into it, like Ryan was the only thing keeping him upright. "You okay?" I asked, my voice softer now. Eli nodded, but his eyes were haunted. "I didn't think it'd feel like this," he said, standing up to them. "It's terrifying, but it's right." Ryan squeezed his shoulder. "You did good, Eli. We've got them now." I pulled out my phone, checking the footage. It was clear, every word, every sneer, every threat. "This is enough to go public," I said. "We post this, and they're done. No one's going to let them get away with this." But Eli hesitated, his eyes searching mine. "What if it makes things worse? What if they come after us harder?" "Then we keep fighting," I said, my voice fierce. "We don't stop until they do." Ryan nodded, his expression resolute. "He's right, Eli. We can't let them win. Not like this." Eli took a deep breath, then nodded. "Okay, let's do it. But we do it together. Always," I said, and for the first time that night, I saw a spark of hope in his eyes. We weren't just fighting for Eli and Rhiannon, we were fighting for everyone who'd ever been told they didn't belong. and I'd be damned if we let them down. The next morning, Eli's apartment was a war room. We sat around his kitchen table, laptops open, coffee cups scattered like casualties. The video was uploaded to a burner account on a local forum, tagged with the bar's name and a simple caption, "This is who they are." We didn't name the guys outright, too risky, but the footage spoke for itself. Their faces, their words, their hate, it was all there. Raw and undeniable. Eli was a wreck, pacing the small space, his phone buzzing with notifications as the post gained traction. What if this backfires? He asked for the 10th time, his voice tight. What if they find out it was us? Then we deal with it, I said, trying to sound more confident than I felt. We've got the truth on our side. Ryan, sitting at the table, was scrolling through the comments. People are pissed, he said, a small smile tugging at his lips. They're calling for the bar to ban those guys. Some are even talking about a protest. A protest? Eli stopped pacing, his eyes wide. Like, for us. For everyone, Ryan said, his voice steady. This isn't just about us, Eli. It's about every kid who's been beat up for who they are. Every person who's been told to hide. I watched them, feeling a mix of pride and fear. Eli had always been the brave one. But this was different. This was him stepping into a fight he couldn't punch his way out of. And Ryan was his anchor. The one who kept him grounded when the world felt like it was falling apart. By noon, the post had gone viral, at least by Brooklyn standards. Local blogs picked it up, then a city news site. People were sharing stories of their own, stories of hate and resilience. And I saw Eli's eyes light up with something I hadn't seen in years, hope. But hope came with a price. By afternoon, Eli's phone was blowing up with threats, anonymous texts, voicemails, even emails to his band's account. They know it's us, he said, his voice shaking as he showed me a message. You're dead. Freak. My stomach dropped, but I kept my face calm. They're scared, I said. This is what people do when they're losing. Ryan nodded, his hand finding Eli's. We knew this wouldn't be easy. But we're not alone anymore. He was right. The comments on the post weren't just angry, they were supportive. Too. People were offering to stand with us, to show up at the bar, to make sure those guys couldn't hurt anyone else. It was a movement, small but growing, and Eli was at the center of it. Let's go to the bar tonight, I said, the idea forming as I spoke. Not to fight, to show up. Show them we're not hiding. Eli looked at me, his green eyes searching mine. You sure? After everything? I'm sure, I said. We do this together. Like always. That night, Rusty's was packed, not with the usual crowd, but with people who'd seen the video, people who'd read the stories online. There were rainbow pins on jackets, signs with messages like "Love wins" and "No hate here." Eli walked in with Ryan's hand in his, and I saw the way people looked at them, not with judgment, but with respect, with solidarity. The scarred guy and his buddies weren't there. Word was they'd been banned, at least for now. The bar's owner, a grizzled guy named Tony, came over, his face grim but kind. I didn't know it was that bad, he said. I'm sorry. This place, it's for everyone. Eli nodded, his throat tight. Thanks, Tony. That means a lot. As the night went on, I watched Eli and Ryan relax, their laughter mingling with the music from the jukebox. For the first time in forever, Eli looked free. Not completely. Not yet. but like he was starting to believe he could be. But I knew this wasn't the end. The threats were still out there, and the world wasn't fixed just because one bar had a good night. As I watched Eli lean into Ryan, their foreheads touching, I felt a pang of something I couldn't name: pride. Maybe. Or fear. Or both. My brother was fighting for his truth, and I'd fight with him, no matter what came next. The next few days were a whirlwind. The video kept spreading, and with it came more support and more threats. Eli's band canceled their next gig at Rusty's. Not because they wanted to, but because the venue got a brick through its window with a note: "Keep your kind out." Eli tried to laugh it off, but I saw the way his hands shook when he read the note. We stayed at my place now, a cramped apartment in Bed-Stuy that felt safer than Eli's exposed walk-up. Ryan was there too, his presence a quiet strength. We spent hours strategizing, reading comments, reaching out to allies who'd emerged online. A local LGBTQ+ group offered to help, connecting us with a lawyer who said we had a case for harassment if we wanted to pursue it. But Eli wasn't sure. "I don't want to hide behind lawyers," he said one night, sitting on my couch with Ryan beside him. "I want to live, not fight in court." "Then live," I said, leaning against the wall. "But don't let them silence you. You've got people behind you now." He looked at Ryan, then back at me, and I saw the spark of his old defiance. "You're right. I'm not done yet." The next morning, Eli got a call from a local radio station. They wanted him and Ryan to come on air, to tell their story. It was a chance to reach more people, to turn the tide even further. But it was also a risk going public like that would paint a bigger target on their backs. "You don't have to do it," I said, watching Eli pace the living room. "You've already done so much." He stopped, his eyes meeting mine. "I know. But if I stop now, what was it all for? I want people to know it's okay to be who they are. I want kids like me to know they're not alone." Ryan nodded, his hand finding Eli's. "We'll do it together." I felt a lump in my throat, watching them. My brother, the reckless one, the one who'd always dragged me into his messes, was becoming someone I barely recognized, not because he'd changed, but because I was finally seeing him. All of him. The radio interview was raw, real, and terrifying. Eli and Ryan sat in a small studio, microphones in front of them, while I listened from the waiting room, my heart in my throat. Eli's voice was steady as he talked about the night at the club, the fight in the alley, the video. He talked about Ryan, about love, about fear. And when Ryan spoke, his voice soft but fierce, I heard the strength that had drawn Eli to him. The host, a woman named Maya, was kind but direct. "What do you want people to take away from this?" she asked. Eli didn't hesitate. "That love isn't a crime. That we're not going anywhere. And that hate doesn't win unless we let it." I closed my eyes, letting his words sink in. My brother, the one who'd spent years hiding, was speaking to the world, unafraid. Or maybe he was afraid, but he was doing it anyway. That was courage. I realized the kind I'd never had to find. When the interview aired, the response was overwhelming. Social media lit up with support, with people sharing their own stories, tagging Eli and Ryan as heroes. But there were still threats, still voices calling them names, promising revenge. I watched Eli read them, his face pale but resolute. "We're not stopping," he said, his voice firm. "They don't get to win." That night, we planned a rally, a real one, outside Rusty's, with the support of the LGBTQ+ group and others who'd reached out. It wasn't just about Eli and Ryan anymore. It was about everyone who'd ever been hurt, silenced, or scared. I saw the fire in Eli's eyes. The same fire I'd seen when we were kids, when he'd climbed the tallest tree just to prove he could. But this time, it wasn't just about him. It was about something bigger. The rally was set for Saturday, and by the time we arrived at Rusty's, the street was alive with people. There were rainbow flags, signs with messages of love and resistance, and faces young, old, queer, straight, all standing together. Eli and Ryan stood at the front, holding hands, their faces a mix of nerves and determination. I stood beside them, my heart swelling with pride but heavy with worry. The crowd was loud, chanting, singing, their voices carrying over the Brooklyn streets. I saw Tony, the bar's owner, in the crowd, his grizzled face softened by a smile. I saw strangers who'd become allies, people who'd read Eli's story and decided to show up. It was overwhelming, and for a moment, I thought Eli might break under the weight of it. But then he stepped forward, a megaphone in his hand, and spoke. "I'm Eli," he said, his voice clear and strong. "And this is Ryan. We're here because we're tired of hiding. We're here because love isn't something to be ashamed of. And we're here because no one gets to tell us who we can be." The crowd roared, and I felt tears prick my eyes. My brother, my twin, was standing tall, his truth laid bare for the world to see. Ryan squeezed his hand, and I saw the love between them, fierce and unbreakable. But then I saw them, the scarred guy and his buddies, lurking at the edge of the crowd. My stomach twisted, and I moved closer to Eli, my instincts screaming to protect him. They didn't approach, but their presence was a reminder that this fight wasn't over. After the rally, as the crowd dispersed, Eli pulled me aside. His eyes were bright, but there was something else in them, something deeper. "Jake," he said, his voice low, "I need to tell you something." My heart skipped. "What?" He took a deep breath, his hands fidgeting. "That night in the alley, when I said I needed you, I meant it. Not just for the fight, but for this. For me. I was scared you'd turn away, but you didn't. You stayed. And that changed everything." I stared at him, my throat tight. "Eli, you're my brother. I'd never turn away." He smiled, a real smile, the kind I hadn't seen since we were kids. "I know, but I needed to hear it. And I need you to know, I'm okay now. Because of you." We hugged, fierce and tight, like we were holding on to everything we'd been through. Ryan joined us, his arm around Eli, and for the first time, I felt like we were whole, not just Eli and me, but all of us, a family forged in fire. The threats didn't stop, and the world didn't change overnight. But as we stood there, the city humming around us, I knew we'd won something bigger than a fight. We'd won the right to be seen, to be heard, to be loved. And no matter what came next, we'd face it together, Eli, Ryan, and me, bound by blood and something stronger. Because that's what love does. It fights. It endures. And sometimes, it changes everything.